Good morning, everyone. The markets continue to run in place over the last few days, trading inside of this prior big wide range bar up, which essentially was just a retracement into the big wide range bar down. And the markets have just been chopping back and forth in this wide range, chopping to the downside after it created this resistance area up here, and it's been holding in this major support area. And it's overall just going sideways within an uptrend on the weekly. So assuming that today goes or ends with a green day, this pullback, while relatively deep into this major support area, we're now going to see if there would be follow through next week to what is a questionable buy setup because of the depth of the retracement. Historically, if a pattern like this fails, especially if it was to trigger and trade above what will be last week's high next week, right? This is the current week, so will be last week's high, and then subsequently travels down here, it would open up the door to a much further correction. So we'll see if that happens, or whether the markets are just marking time here, and this just chops sideways over a longer period of time. So obviously the market is in a corrective phase, from the sell signal that we had posted back here on July 24th. It's just been a whippy, wide, kind of choppy consolidation. And while, the end of this week has really gone nowhere, there's been some turmoil under the surface, and we'll get to that. Just take a look at the NASDAQ here, and pretty much the same. A little bit more sideways, but just a lot of chop. We've got this void below here, this resistance above, and unless we can break out of this range one way or the other, just trading within the broader markets is just not the place to be. And just let it, do what it's going to do through this correction here, and we'll see, over the next week or so what actually happens. But you can see the weekly here potentially shaping up. A green candle here, actually a bottoming tail, with just chop up above. So a lot of uncertainty. The momentum slowed down. I covered this in a prior video, so looking at the momentum on a move, and then how much of a correction once you get a reversal. And then the momentum slowed a bit, from this move, but still, decent, and pull back. And then look at the distance between the highs here, how it's getting closer. So that's how you see slowing momentum, whereas an indicator, those that use indicators would look at, something like this, and then saying, you're getting divergences in the indicator. Well, indicators can only follow what price does. That's why we just use price. And if you know how to read it, you don't need any of the squiggly lines over here. All right, so the turmoil, the majority of the damage being done here is in the consumer staples sector. And XLP is the ETF of the consumer staples. And just taking a look at some of the ones being hit hard yesterday, Kroger, even Walmart, which has been showing relative strength, took a hit. Manzella, big break to the downside. And, we'll always look at longer time frames to put a shorter time frame into perspective. And this isn't in a sideways range for a while, but this certainly isn't looking good. Costco, still within a wider whippy side range, but looks like it's going lower. And CVS, drugstore, break to the downside. A lot of damage being done out there. Smucker's, now this was on earnings. Even Campbell Soup. These are supposed to be safe places to put your money. And, from about $68 down to 52 percentage-wise, it's a big correction, and it looks like there's quite a bit more to come. Even Kellogg's, so they're all looking pretty much the same, but all of these breakdowns that are happening, so looking at what's happening in the broader markets, and just looking at, the NASDAQ 100, the ETFQs, just zip the market sleeping here, during the summer, and the spiders doing nothing. But then the transports are breaking down, and so another bad sign. So these are the things. Looking at different sectors of the market, you begin to see what's really happening. And here, where we're seeing relative weakness in a lot of areas, during the end of a corrective phase, we start seeing a lot of relative strength in other areas, and those are some of the clues that we look for a market that's turning around after a correction. So, everybody have a great trading day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk next week.